So today I'm going to fill up the water tanks on the camper here. I'm going to give you a few tips on what we do. I'm going to explain about the tanks, the position of the tanks, and some of the filtration systems we've got in place. Firstly, because we've got quite a large camper, and rather than moving the camper to go to a water point, sometimes it's much easier, especially when you're on campsites, to leave the camper where it is, and then maybe on an evening just run an hose pipe to the water point to actually get the water into the camper. So I tend to like these flexible stretchy hoses. I think realistically you want about certainly 200 foot of hose. I think I've got about 3 or 4 in here, and the idea being that these do get damaged, and if people run over them, they will get damaged. So don't get too giddy in buying one 200 foot hose. Buy 3 or 4 small ones, and then you can connect them on and so on. Also, a tip what I was given were having plenty of these hose pipe connectors. These are for different sized taps, especially when you're travelling. Everything's going to change, especially if you go abroad into Europe. So different tap connectors. These are like for standard household taps. Even right down to like Jubilee clips. You don't know what you're going to be attaching and getting your water from. So plenty of these. These are only just a few pound off eBay. So spend the money and get all the different tap connectors. So while the water's filling up, we're going to go into the camper, and we'll have a look at what system we've got, where the tanks are, and some of the filters and so on what we've got. So these are the tanks underneath the bed area, towards the rear of the vehicle. The tanks were positioned to the rear of the vehicle to basically distribute the weight. At the front of the vehicle we've got a lot of weight there. We've got the engine, we've got the gearbox. So we're basically wanting to try to keep weight towards the back of the vehicle, just to even the 4x4 traction out. So what we've got 2 tanks to either side. You can see the tanks are insulated. This is to stop condensation. What we found out initially when we filled up the tanks was getting actually condensation forming on the outside of the tanks and wetting some of the flooring and everything around. So we then decided to insulate them, which has cured that. So even though the 2 tanks are linked for filling and draining, we've got taps in place. We can actually turn the taps off to isolate one tank just in case we get a leak, and then we can operate off the other tank. So even though both tanks are linked, they can work independently. And then from there the water comes through these pipes and then into this electric cupboard. So welcome to the electric cupboard. So the water comes in at the bottom there, goes firstly to the flow jet pump. This is a 12 volt pump, self-priming. We have here 2 carbon filters. Now these are just from Screwfix. They work about £15 a piece. Just here we've got a pressure switch, and then a damper, and then from here we go over to the kitchen area. So from the water filters we come over to the kitchen area. We've got a Seagull 4 faucet here. Now this has got an antibacterial filter just underneath the sink. This will remove any bacteria right down to 0.4 microns. So if you are thinking about travelling further afield, maybe out of Europe, you may be thinking about fitting something like this. Standard kitchen tap. As you can see, there's plenty of water pressure in this system. And then underneath this rear corner is where we have our isotemp water heater. Now this is 20 litres in capacity, and the water in here is heated either via 240 volts or the Erbispacher heating system. And just to give you a rough idea, I tend to have a 4-minute shower, and I like a hot shower, so I mean this will do this no problem. Okay, so 20 litres is more than enough usually. So just to recap then, at the back of the vehicle, underneath the bed, we've got 400 litres of fresh water and 20 litres in the isotemp. At some point you're going to want to sterilise your tanks. We use a product called sodium metabisulfite. This is found from your homebrew type shops. It tends to work out much cheaper and much more efficient than the products what you can get from the caravan shops. So to get this into our tanks, because the tanks are sealed, we tend to use the same cartridge as what our carbon filters are in. So we unscrew this cartridge, we put the sodium in here, fasten it up obviously, and then connect the hose pipe to the tap, and then the hose pipe to his tanks. Now the beauty about using this product, when it's mixed with water, it gives off a gas, so you don't have to fill your tanks all the way to the top. So the gas goes in there, and obviously that sterilises your tanks. We pull that through to his taps and a shower and everything. It works for around about 15 minutes before it sort of like dilutes. So it is a good product where, you know, you can use it 2 or 3 times a year if need be. But it is safe. It is used in the food industry, so we definitely recommend this. I'll put a link in the descriptions afterwards, and you can get it from there. So just to recap, we have 400 litres of water on board, 20 litres of hot water. Now the 400 litres, me on my own will last 10 days. For 2 persons it's going to last about 5 days, and that's on a normal routine with, you know, shower in the morning, washing the pots, drinking tea and so on. So I hope this has been a little bit enlightening for yourself. Please come back and join us again. There's going to be a lot more material coming back on the channel, and if you do like it, like and subscribe. And thanks very much.